Hi everyone, we are here in the Weird Studio in Florence with the Autentica family, and we have a special guest today. It's MR Scruff. He played for us yesterday night in Combo Social Club, and now we're gonna have an interview with him. We're gonna speak. You're gonna tell about you, and so I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Okay.
Some are personal, and some others are just to get to know some better your taste and your person, and you as an artist and as a person. So
okay, cool.
We're gonna start with the first question. We would like to ask, your music and your visual and graphic works are perfectly matched to create something that is always great to listen and to watch. What influenced your taste as illustrator, and how much is important for you to have connected these two different arts?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, and I think being called an illustrator when I'm surrounded by all this amazing artwork is it feels crazy because I do it for fun, for my music, you know, I don't really consider myself professional. But I was influenced by a lot of kids' cartoons, animation, like 1970s and 1980s UK children's TV, that kind of thing. And just I've always had that same style, so I've always drawn in that potato style since about 1985, and my drawings then are the same as they are now. So I think for me, when I started to release music, I illustrated the releases with my cartoons. It was more because it wasn't putting them together, it just was like, well, I can do this, I can design my own cover.
Yeah, so it came like naturally to you.
And I think after a while I've realised that the cartoons kind of were like a friendly face to the music. So the cartoons are like, you know, come in, and then the music's like, can mess around with you a bit, but the cartoons have already made the introduction, so it's kind of
like it's an explanation for your music. So you choose the subject maybe, and this is linked also to my second question actually.
Okay.
Because we noticed that in your graphic is very often present fruits and vegetables. So is there a specific reason why you choose this kind of subjects? So you prefer these subjects rather than other ones?
No, just that they're easy to draw.
It's the best explanation ever. So
It's simple, and I think when I'm making music and I'm playing music, I have a very playful approach to it, and I'm having fun and I'm enjoying it, and it's a way of saying you're making connections yourself with the music, and then you're trying to also make connections with people around you who are experiencing in it, you know, because it's all about it's like today we're making connections, last night we made connections at the party, meeting people, musical connections. So for me, and it's about keeping it playful and making it enjoyable, and the cartoons somehow really explain that without me having to explain it as well. So it's kind of, it works, but I don't like to think too much about why it does.
There's another question, actually. This comes from Mirko.
Okay.
And it's something that he would like to ask you as a record collector. So for many reasons, your most important production for him is the Ninja Tuna album. Do you think it will be possible to have a vinyl release sooner or later for this album? Or?
Yeah, it's been issued this year, actually. So, because that album came out on CD and we had like 8 to 12 inches off it, but the album never came out on vinyl. And then last year Ninja emailed me and said, do you think we should release it? And I said, yeah, it's great. So we're just working on the artwork now, and we've had it mastered and it's cut onto triple vinyl. So it would be possible.
Many people would be happy of this.
That was a very well-timed question. But a few people have asked me that recently, but no, I've not told anybody about it. So this is kind of like
it's
a
kind of a spoiler.
But I was really pleased with that album, and I think it was one of those. I think maybe because it never came out on vinyl, for some people it kind of went past them. You know what I mean? Especially people who like to collect vinyl and stuff. So I think Yeah, because that album's 14 years old now.
Wow! Well, congratulations.
Yeah. So yeah, it's later this year, I think, maybe September, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Like related to the same word, let's say that we noticed that there's a kind of an overflow of records in the vinyl market, in the vinyl trade. So we would like to ask you, what would you advise to a label owner, like now, which is the right move to make, like to avoid, or to, you know, if you have any advices related to this, because there's this overflow and people that want to produce music, they really don't know how to get there because the situation is kind of stuck at the moment, no?
I'm not sure. It's different because every scene, every country, every community has a different way of approaching music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for some people, digital is fine. I mean, I suppose now with Bandcamp, you can kind of build a community and people can see what other people are buying. So I think if you're not sure, you don't have to press vinyl. It's still like you can still share the music, and then if there's demand for it, you can still then, we're going to do a vinyl release.
Okay.
I think it's a strange one. I think with anything like that, I think you just have to do what, if you're excited about doing some vinyl, press some vinyl. You know, it's kind of like because so many people are doing it now. It's quite easy to find people can do P&D deals, or you can just contact a pressing plant and do it and try it. And I think also, especially if you have like a setup like this, you know, somebody be like, oh, I'd really like to try printing. It's like, well, come here and do some printing, you know. So it's like there are so many people doing it, so many people who've done it for many years. Like I Ninja Tune pressed my vinyl, so I wouldn't know what to do. You know, I could probably ask. I could probably ask some of the people in here who've pressed their own vinyl, or I might speak to Patrick at Mother Tongue, or you know, so speak to people who do it already. It's really easy to find other people who do it. Press 200 or 300. I think people realise that it's quite a precious thing that takes a lot of work. I suppose if you are going to press vinyl, then it's also take care of the artwork, make sure it's mastered properly. But I don't think, 30 years ago, pressing your own vinyl was quite a thing that you had to have experience. You had to have the money to go in the studio, you had to have the money to get it all mastered properly. And now I think these things are much more accessible, simply because more people are doing it. And if you don't know, you know someone who does. So it's
of course it spreads all over. So also to go to know who refers, and maybe if you're in the environment of music, you know the people that are doing this, so you can easily find someone that can take care of your work and your vinyl.
And in Italy, like Mother Tongue, they're pressing stuff for UK labels as well. So I think it's like that's the community in itself. They're putting out great music.
Yeah.
The mastering's really good. They're doing small quantities, 200-300 people, 200-300 records. So it's kind of like the connection's already here. People in the UK are coming to Italy to press their vinyl because of the network that you have here already.
Okay, nice. The next question is, like in your set you play a broad set of different sonorities, and from what we realize is something that is common to a lot of English DJs, and when this comes from Fabio. When he came to the UK, he noticed that you had the chance to enjoy a lot of parties with different genres and situations, from the jazz club to dancehall, many different musics. So, do you think, how do you think England and specifically Manchester, your city, affected your musical taste?
I think what it is I think in any city, especially in the UK, because of the mix of people we have there and the mix of music, you become aware that every culture or community or scene has its own kind of style of music or way of doing things. And for me, growing up and listening to the radio a lot, I was aware of just listening to different radio shows. Oh, there's some Bhangra music. Oh, there's some house music. Oh, there's some electro. There's some hip hop. Yeah. So it was more just when I was a teenager, because we didn't have the internet, you know, we had magazines and we had radio and we had record shops. And I think it was just being presented with all this and being aware of it and being able to, you know, record radio shows on cassette tapes and listen back to them and learn about the artists. You'd read about a release in a magazine and then you'd hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
And then you'd try and find it in a record shop. So it was like there was a lot of research, but doing all this research, you would meet people from these different scenes, which then brought this music to life. So I'd be in, you know, 16-year-old bedroom DJ in Eastern Bloc Records. The guy next to me is a guy called Gerald, who's just brought his record in to sell. You know, and behind the counter at 808 State. So I'm there buying all these white labels, or being given these white labels because I'm in there every week. But then that record shop also sold rock music, and it also sold hip hop, and then I go to another shop and they would sell more soul music, or different kinds of house music or techno, or, you know, a few years later there'd be, you know, record shops just for drum and bass, or, you know, certain reggae record shops. So I think what's good about the UK, not specifically Manchester, because I think it's the same all over the UK, is that there, because of the experience and the kind of migration to the UK and the history of colonialism, that, you know, there's lots of different communities, different kinds of music, which is quite unique to the UK in terms of the combinations, and then the music culture that came out there, created by you know, like the kids of immigrants, or the kids, like successive generations.
Like everyone brings his own part.
Yeah,
and support.
But I think so much of it happened in the UK that I think from Italy or from other countries, you're looking and going, wow, what a variety.
Yeah.
You know, whereas we're looking at it.
When it comes from us, because when you go to UK, you're not expecting to find all this variety in here, because we are not used to this in here. So it's something that really gives us a perception of this thing that is existing, and it's something real, and you can perceive it. If you live in here in Italy, it's really hard to find all these different kind of music. I mean, if you dig into it, of course you will find, but it's not that easy like you have in the UK.
Yeah, the culture's not as obvious and around you. And I think there will be different communities who have their own parties, but they don't promote it like a normal club night, so it's more like a social thing, you know, because there will be, you know, Afrobeat parties here and techno parties and drum and bass parties. There's a massive reggae scene in this part of Italy, you know, and for us in the UK, that's kind of like, why is that? You know, I'd love to learn more about what are all these sound systems, you know, doing in Italy, because you don't think, you know, from our perspective, you don't think Italy reggae. But it's big here, so I think you do actually have elements of it here. You're just looking at the things that you don't have as much of. You know, the same way we're looking at Italy and going, wow, soundtracks, you know, or, you know, our kind of, you know, the whole, you know, kind of Baldelli, Beppe Loda thing, you know what I mean? Or that kind of, the symbiosis and the relationship of Italian producers and American producers, and in terms of your appreciation for authentic black American disco and house music. You know, that goes way beyond what we have in the UK, because there seems to be a particular love for that style of music and a respect for those artists and practitioners. So I think it's just like, it's a different culture, and I think there are also a lot of similarities. I think we're looking at kind of what's different, which is beautiful as well. You know,
and it's our own point of view, because we are from Italy and you're from England, so it's like the 2 point of view connecting, and you're giving us your opinion. But it's true that actually everyone has his own, let's say, admiration, and they find these differences. It's much more easier for them if they are not used to this. So in a way, it's true what you're saying, that maybe in Italy we have loved something specifically that you don't have in the UK, and of course in the UK it's something different happening.
Well, there's also a style in the way that a lot of Italian musicians have taken influences, often a lot of you know, American influences, and have given them a certain feeling. So that when we look at Italian music, we see, okay, well, we can see where that comes from, but it has a certain different feel. It might be a bit slower, or a bit, you look at things like, some of the early 80s disco, like big hits like Change and High Gloss and all these kind of things, or a lot of the Emergency record stuff. There was a lot of stuff which had a very New York sound, which was also was made in Italy. A lot of the Italian music was getting licensed to American labels, and we thought it was American. Obviously in America they knew it was Italian because a lot of the American DJs were buying these Italian imports because they kind of helped to give birth to house music because of that kind of slow, mid-tempo, electronic, like a kind of sexier marauder. That kind of sound, which is very important to the house music, which was then received back to Italy with much joy. You know what I mean? Obviously, in the early 90s, there was a lot of amazing Italian house music as well. Don Carlos and all this kind of thing, and obviously LTJ and people like that. So it's interesting to see how all these influences bounce around between different countries.
And how they get maybe modified from the people are getting those. And they just create something new that is going to be new for the other one that is going to take it.
And I think especially with DJ culture, music moves around. Like a lot of focusing specifically on the roots of American house music. A lot of those original house DJs were playing European imports, and it was because they had a sound that the American music didn't have. But the European DJs were looking at America and buying their records because it was different. So we're back to looking at different places and seeing what they do with often similar influences, and we're taking from each other. So a lot of electro, which was the first music that I got into in the early 80s, was very influenced by European New Wave and Human League and Visage and Alexander Robotnik and all these people. And then we were looking over to America and going, wow, all this electro, all this Hashim and Africa Bambaataa and Cybertron and Nucleus. And then we were buying that and then making electronic music that kind of came like the early 90s sort of warp music, which then the Americans are going, wow, what's that? So everybody's looking at what we do when we copy the influences, we change it a bit, either deliberately or accidentally, and we bring it with ourselves. And then
you create your own new music, and then you share. And it's something always new going to be created. And
it's inspiration and it's progress. But the thing is, because we all share a lot of the same reference points, and I think in the UK, we are taking a lot from American music. That's such a massive influence, especially with soul music and disco and jazz. Obviously, a lot. Jazz is massive in the UK. Jazz is very popular in Italy as well, but there are very different roots to that.
The country in a way is making a difference, but even though the genre is the same, the country is making a difference because each player in different country has his own way to play the music, even though it's the same kind of music or the same genre. No, do you agree with this?
Yeah, and also I think a lot of the jazz influence in Europe is from American, army bases and stuff like that, and the way that obviously there was a lot of musicians in the army, and the way they were interacting with local musicians and having releases, and so it's interesting. There are so many examples of this cross-pollination, or people travelling and migrating, and then having a profound influence on the music of the countries where they settled, and then how that then solidifies as a style within that community, and then gets viewed by people from other countries as something unique. And then that gets taken, and then someone else looks at what they've done with it, and it's just like all these connections.
It's bouncing.
And that's happening with old music, because we've got a lot of people in this room who are diggers and are buying old music and and have a lot of knowledge about producers or studios or labels or Italian library music or soundtracks, and they're taking this and then turning that into something else, which then someone else is listening to. So it's being influenced by what's happening now, but also what happened in the past. Different generations are interested in different things just because of what's around at the moment, and how people are together in terms of a collective You know, for instance, this Autentica thing is very much. I spoke to Edo about this a lot, but it's like a hip hop thing because it's multidisciplinary. You know, it's not just music. It's not promoting. There's artwork, but there's also you know, workshops. There's passing on knowledge. There's a real kind of family vibe, which is also very much centered on on hip hop roots, without it necessarily looking, feeling, or sounding like hip hop. But those principles are very much there. So you've taken
like the ingredients are those, and then we kind of have our own recipe.
Yeah, it's almost like you've taken a set of rules or principles and gone, well, we're going to operate using those principles in this family environment and create something new, which is like, how do you explain what you do here? I can't, you know. But it's something that's very special and unique that you don't see very much when you're travelling as a DJ in terms of being welcomed with this kind of atmosphere and this sort of, thing that's happening as well. What an amazing space, you know what I mean? What a great group of people. And I know this also extends beyond these walls into other people and connections in other cities. You know, a lot of the people who came last night, they came because of the respect that they have for you as an organisation as well. So same again, it's talking about, we've got these, we're all looking at what each other's doing, you know, and people are coming, right, I'm going to come here to get a taste of what these people are doing, and we're going to bring a bit of what we're doing, and then everybody will go back to where they come from. You leave a bit and you take a bit, you know.
Yes. Because for us it's natural, like to welcome and to give this perception for the audience, but maybe from the outside you don't notice that much unless you're really focused on what you're gonna like enjoy for the party. Also, we were speaking before, you said that you noticed that people entering the club were super enjoying the music since the beginning. They were not shy, they started to dance immediately. So it's something that for us is kind of natural, but it's nice that you perceive this aspect, because maybe for us it's given for granted. So it's really nice, and we appreciate that like everyone feels welcomed, feels part of the family. There's a great atmosphere, and this is actually what we would like to have as a mantra. We really believe in this giving and taking from the others. So also when you played for us last party, but also yesterday night, was really nice, and the atmosphere was super great. And it's not just because of us and the people came to the party, but it's just because of you, because you played your music following the flow. Maybe also, I guess, when you have your dance floor and you have in your mind to play some different records, then you also check the audience, what is dancing, what he likes the most, what he enjoys the most, and then maybe you can also change at the last moment one record because you think that there's another one that is going to be better for the set. So it's something that is like a creative process that is always moving and always growing, no?
Yeah, it's like a conversation. But,
actually.
But it's just really nice that I think the way that people felt very comfortable in the venue. Like, I know if you went to Combo tonight, that would not be the same feeling, you know. So it's a kind of it's a venue, it's a sound system, it's everybody working there to make people feel welcome, and then the audience. But I think in order to create an atmosphere where people can just walk into a venue and feel really relaxed and just contribute to the atmosphere straight away, rather than waiting for someone else to, that is quite unique. And as a DJ, that's like, wow, there's a lot of really good energy to work with here. And you're like, you can push it in different directions, or maybe you're not having to think as tactically about how you play, because you're not having to be as careful with how you build the atmosphere, because sometimes you have to be very steady until you reach a point where, right, now we have an atmosphere. When you have an atmosphere straight away, you can go anywhere.
And people will follow you, like the audience will follow you and will come with you. It's true. I go with the next question. Like, unlike most of the DJs and producers, you focus a lot on your graphic and your brand identity. We go a little back to the first question. How important it is for you to invest on this, and what would you recommend to a DJ or a producer to promote himself and give value to his or her own identity?
It's difficult because I think, like, even the word brand is a bit of a dirty word, you know what I mean, in terms of like, it's more of like a style. And I think it's up to everybody to define their own style. And I think half of it's what you're comfortable with doing, and the other half is kind of like what helps to explain to other people what you're about, or even if it's just like what makes other people want to know more about what you do. Because I think it's like, especially online with the amount of advertising, you know, on or just people doing things to make you click and buy stuff all the time, you know what I mean? It's like everything's becoming like selling. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just finding a way to do something where you can express something creative in a way which is keeping you interested, but also bringing other people along. So it's working out what your thing is and finding a way to communicate that, and the style with which you communicate that will help to develop your own style as well. So it's a cycle, but you have to have a concept or at least a feeling or something that you're interested in. And if you're passionate about it,
like a starting point, and then you just add things
I think
build it.
Yeah, I think the advice, you know, rather than you must do this amount of social posts a day, or you need a website or whatever, it's like now the rules don't seem very fixed, you know.
Yeah,
like
very clear, it's true.
So it's like you can spend time on the things that are important to you, and as you develop and work on these things, everything will start to make sense to you, because if you're always learning and you're always curious and you're interacting with other people and you're watching what they're doing.
True.
You know, so you were talking about vinyl. I'd like to press some vinyl, but then the vinyl will kind of spread out, and it'll be on a wall in a record shop, and it'll be, in a magazine, or it might be on a website or on somebody's shelf. So all these things kind of, it's like these posters, you know. Somebody could see that poster, either, you know, in town or in somebody's house or online, and go, "What's that? I like this potato thing. What's," you know, but that's kind of, this is making people ask questions about, you know, this is advertising, but it's also something that's very creative.
Yeah.
But that's a really good balance.
And it's pleasing to see, like, it's something very nice, it's attracting.
But it's also like from a private joke about potatoes that nobody else knows about, but it's made it into that, and this is like somebody's world that's bringing you in. And I think that it's working out what is in your world, and then, you know, do you want to bring people in, and then how do you do that? And it's all down to what your personality is like, and how you explain yourself, and how you like to share your things with other people. You know, some people are like, "Well, I do this, and look at me," and, you know, and other people.
Yeah, it depends also on the person itself.
Other people are a bit like that, and then they might just, you know, design a sticker and then just put it somewhere and run away.
Yes.
You know, or tag a wall and be anonymous. You know, and so it's. But
it's still a form of art, but everyone.
How do you explain to somebody to do? I don't know, to kind of, everybody has their own things that make them feel good and keep them engaged and curious and excited about, you know, about their interests. And it's like, I do this thing, and as long as it's something which has you engaged and obsessed all the time, you'll naturally find ways to kind of bring other people in. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think as you develop that style, and as you develop your craft, all these things will fall into place. And I don't think it's something to worry about, because it is something, the more you do it, the more it will just happen, because you're doing it. You know, it's such a strange thing to explain, because I think this whole kind of advice to people, it's like you just need to, you know, you just need to do your thing and spend time and be around other people who like the same thing. And then naturally from conversations, it's like, "Oh, you did that," or well, I was thinking about trying this. And it's kind of, there are no rules. Yeah. And I think, you know, like here in this group, there are a set of principles, and it's a family principle, and there's always like a kind of like a hip hop aesthetic. But within that, everybody's got their own thing which develops to that style and the approach. And then obviously there's spaces like this, which kind of, this space explains a lot about what you do as a collective. Mm-hmm. You know, but this didn't just happen. You know, this is a collection of books, these are influences, this is history, this is techniques.
That's the specific reason why all this stuff is in here, and of course it's personal taste, but it's also something that can help expressing yourself as a collective, as a family, as a person, as everything. So,
but this is Autentica this week. You know, next week there will be more stuff in here, maybe more prints, or maybe another book or another record. But this space where you come together and share things, I think is really important as well, because it's where you support each other, where you express your curiosity, where you all learn from each other. And obviously there's other people coming in learning to use the printers, who their questions will help you to learn as well. You know, the process of other people learning takes you back to when you were younger, when maybe you were coming from a more pure state of mind as well. So it enables you to kind of maintain that,
there's always something new to learn. We know this, but it's you also need to, I think, to get inspired by the right people, because not everyone can be the right person for everything. So if you find your flow, your path, then when you get into contact with this kind of environment, you feel inspired. Maybe you can also give your support in a very small way, but everyone in here gives his own support. Like we have the PR, we have the graphics, we have the music, we have everything. So it's everyone giving his little part to build this thing. So.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's really interesting to see how it's grown and how it continues to develop. You know, it's and this kind of, you know, this environment. Same again, not every city has it. You know what I mean? And I think this is happening because in this city there is not so much of this kind of thing happening. So you've got a lot of interesting people from different backgrounds and different skills coming together because this is here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why other people in other cities and other countries are paying attention to what's happening here as well, and why in here you're tuned in to what's happening in other cities. Like, why is that happening there? Why is this happening in the UK? You know, what's that happening in Bologna that isn't happening here? You know, whereas in Bologna, though, what's this happening here? You know, so it's but this is just the constant curiosity. You know, you're like, we have something in common with these people, but what are they doing differently to us, and why?
Yeah. And how can we be inspired from them, and how can we create something new?
Yeah.
It's true. If I speak about music, what comes to your mind as first thing? Random.
Music? Oh, yeah.
It's a huge question.
Yeah, that's a massive question.
Let's try to...
Yeah, for me it's just the excitement of hearing something new. And the process that went into that creativity, you know, whether it's hearing a DJ set or hearing, you know, some of the local music we heard today. We've been listening to some, you know, some releases by people in this room on the turntable, and just hearing. I don't know. It's a strange thing that people are able to create these sounds using the technology available to us. And they're like these little statements and messages, you know. And so it's just like, what is this music saying? What is this? You know, sometimes it's like a question, sometimes it's like an answer, sometimes it's just like a mood or a feeling. So it's for me, every piece of music is like the start of a conversation. It's just a different way, you know. Obviously, words are involved as well in terms of lyrics, but it's just like it's an expression of an idea or a concept. The same way, you know. Art and prints, this sofa we're sat on, design, anything that people have taken the time to create,
and to express themselves.
And sometimes it can be a really clever gadget. It could be something you use in the kitchen or something. It's like, oh wow, that's really clever, but somebody's thought about that, and you appreciate it because it fulfills, you know, a requirement, but also you can very quickly kind of appreciate the thought and the word that went into that. It's like, wow, that's genius.
None of us like stops really for 1 second to think about these things, but it makes sense, and it's true actually. Also, when you create a song or when you create a track in your case, it's there's always something behind, and there's a specific creation process in the mind of the artist or the producer, and there's a specific intention and meant to express the song or the track itself. So. Of course, I completely agree with you. It's like a conversation, and I start giving the first word, and then you, in a way, how to say, you think about and you give your own, you have your own opinion on this song, because if I like a track and then you listen to the same track and you don't like it, it's not that we cannot speak, but it's just different taste. But the artist himself didn't want to have an opinion, but it's just to communicate something. Then it depends, of course, on the listener, on the audience, and everything. But the conversation is building new thoughts and new way of you know what I mean. It's like new opinions, and to share them. And I think music is sharing. So actually, it's like in a conversation, you share your thoughts and your opinions, and then you get the others, and you create something new. At the end of the conversation, you have a different perception maybe of this song, because if I listen to something and then you tell me your point of view, then I can, how to say, I can listen to your point of view and get a new perception again on the same track, even though the first time I didn't like it or I thought something completely different. But then it's a building process while you listen. Maybe you listen in a wrong mood or in a wrong day, something. Then you go back to listen to the same thing after 2 months, and it's completely different, and it becomes super new and.
It happens all the time. Like, you know, I'm sure every DJ will have this, where they'll buy a record. They'll get it home, they'll listen to it, not properly, put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
A year later, they're in a club, somebody plays an amazing record, it's like, what's this?
Yeah.
And show it you, and it's like, oh, I've got this.
I had it, actually.
So it's I think with music, you have that creation thing, and you can't control the environment in which people listen to it. So there's these, you reproduce music like you reproduce a print or a book, and it just travels around and people pick it up or hear it on the radio, or it's kind of, it depends when, like you say, sometimes you're not in the right mood to listen to music, or you're just like, it might be on and you're concentrating on something else, or you're listening
you don't get properly the meaning of, or if you really like it or not, because maybe it's really depending on the wrong moment when you approach to this track.
But it's the same with that. I think it's the same with anything creative, isn't it? Because you make it, it's finished, and then it takes off another life which is separate. You know? Unless you're performing live or something like that, you kind of finish it and then it goes away and people discover it. You know, and it's it's an interesting process. But then there's a delay, and then these replies come back to you. So, oh, I really like this, or oh yeah, I heard that record when I was 10, you know, and you know, my parents played me this record and I still love it now, or I remember I was doing this, you know. So it's kind of interesting. Everybody has these personal stories about when they first heard a certain tune, or experienced a certain, you know, art or film or something like that, and the time was right for it to resonate with them, and those are the stories which come back to you. You know what I mean? Nobody ever says, oh yeah, I heard that tune 15 years ago and it was really boring. You know, it's like the things that resonate, and people like this particular tune. You know, like there was a question about Ninja Tuna. You know, not that normally people mention other tunes like maybe Get a Move On or other, you know, so it's like, all right, that particular album that resonated with you at that time. I don't know why, but it's happening.
It's happening. And then also because you as a person, you always evolve and you change during the time. So maybe it can be that your taste of 2 years ago is completely different from the taste you have right now. So it's always something in a building process.
And I think it's fascinating, and I think the thing about DJing, same again, it's like you're taking other people's finished pieces of work and you're presenting them to a room full of people at what you hope is the right time. You're trying to create a whole evening of right times. Like, this is the time for this tune now. This is the time for this tune now. This is a really strange tune, so I'm going to create the right time for this to be appreciated, you know. So it's it's kind of strange being someone, you know, being able to make music, but also to be able to play other people's music, because you have this thing as it is finished, but it's always a work in progress. Especially when, you know, you have things like cover versions, re-edits, sampling.
Yes.
So nothing is ever truly finished, and people will take each other's ideas and riffs.
Always.
So there's always So and everybody will be hearing that in a different way. The way we take samples. It might be a part of the original tune where the composer was just like, oh, that was just an intro. I wasn't bothered about that. I really like the main body of the tune. And all the diggers are like, no, that intro, the first 2 bars, the rest of the tune, the rest of the tune is awful, but that snare, or that 2 bars there. So it's everybody listens with different ears and from a different perspective, and obviously our perspective shifts as we move through life and experience things. And I think there are always certain times where maybe the development of music is moving and it's bringing together a feeling of the times and a feeling of all the influences and the mood and the things that feels right at that time, which that you think of the creation of music like, say, drum and bass, for instance, or sometimes very quickly over the course of 6 months this completely new genre evolves, and you're like, where did that come from? I thought that we'd done all music up to that.
It's like, is there?
Oh wow, there can be more styles, and now it's just crazy. It's all it's coming from everywhere.
Is this happening like also in your case, like for all productions, when you listen back to those, you still enjoy them like you used to do in the past, or it's something that you would change right now, let's say?
No, you can't change it, and I think time is good, because when you're working on a production, you are very caught up in all the details, so it's very difficult to remain objective. Whereas if you're listening to something 20 years later, you're just like, oh yeah, I like this tune, but at the time, you might be like, oh, that kick drum's too quiet, or oh, that snare, I don't like the snare. So it's kind of, sometimes I don't think, oh, I wish I could go back and change stuff. But I think when you finish something and then listen back to it from a distance, I think it then informs how you might approach music in the future.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. So we were speaking about roots in some questions ago, and for our Autentica project, roots are really an important thing. What and which are yours? What these mean to you, and how do they influence your life and formation?
I think there's two strands to that. I think one is, like, in terms of my own musical roots, it's kind of what I was listening to when I was young, the music my parents listened to, which is a lot of soul and blues music and ska. And then I think, in terms of me, in terms of my own family lineage, I wouldn't particularly say that there's deep roots there in terms of music that my family made, or in terms of my own history, in terms of like, British, Irish roots, that kind of thing. I mean, I like a lot of Irish traditional music, but I don't have a direct family connection to it.
Yeah.
So I think this is why I'm quite careful, because I am influenced by music from all over the place. I'm always really keen to find out why that music exists, because it's like, these aren't necessarily my roots, So if I'm listening to Jamaican music, it's like, well, I want to know the entire history of Jamaican music.
How did they get there?
Yeah. And that comes from a lot of reading and talking and listening and researching and digging, but then all these things are all connected with each other. So it's kind of, so you start looking at different music in isolation. Oh, I'm going to learn about where techno comes from. I'm going to learn about where reggae comes from.
Yeah.
And then you're like, actually, all music has quite a lot in common because of general human history and migration and travel and all that kind of thing.
Jazz music is one completely different meaning that we have right now. When you listen to jazz music, you don't think of the whole history of how jazz music was, how it was born. Because it was born in the fields, because of the working people working in the fields, like black people. And now when you listen to jazz music, you think about something completely different. That is something passionate, but it's not about the hard work and the pain, but it's just about love and being romantic. So it's it moved and it changed in a way. So roots are important because you get to know really how this kind of music was created, the reason why that's behind this. But then it gets evolved during the years, and people that are trying to give them point of view and their support in this music.
I think the thing is, because music's so enchanting, and you can listen to something and there's half like, wow, this is amazing, I really like this tune, and then the other half's like, I want to know more about this because there's something about this creation which makes me want to get inside it. Even though if you know too much about it, you can kind of kill it a little bit, you know what I mean, in terms of the mystery, because I think, especially from record collecting, like the whole thing about finding a record and going, this looks great, I don't know what it is, and then you listen to it and it might sound like the cover, it might not, but you're always making judgments, but you're always hoping to be surprised in some way, you know what I mean, kind of what this thing is that someone was taking the time to create, and wow, I didn't expect that, you know. So, but then it's, I think learning about the roots rather than, you know, because like we pay for the records, but we don't really, it's just like an entry into somebody's world, and you have the world of that artist, you have the world of their family, the world of their community, and then the world of the culture in general. So it's about learning about all these different stages. It's like, why does that, you know, how come that music sounds like it does? Oh right, okay, well there's some general cultural reasons why it sounds like it does, but there's also some reasons specifically to that artist. You know, so certain genres you could say, okay, well house music is like, you know, it's disco and European electronic music together. You know, crudely it is. But then every contributor to that genre, whether they are Harold Melvin or Giorgio Moroder or Frankie Knuckles and Chippy and Ron Hardy and, you know, and all these people, they will each have their twist that they put on it. And sometimes you find yourself part of a musical lineage without even realising it, especially when we're talking about, you know, music that's being sampled or whatever. You know, David Axelrod was not planning to be on Madlib's albums, you know what I mean, all that kind of thing. So I think sort of going back to it, in terms of being interested in the roots of the music, because like I want to know about this genre and I want to be able to learn about this genre and respect where it's come from. Because if I'm going to be handling music in this area, I need to be know what I'm doing. But also, but then I didn't know about that, you know, or because a lot of time, you know, because of the way that things are kept in record stores, you have rock and funk and jazz and disco, and the rock people don't like disco, even though, you know,
different blocks.
But then, but the roots are very similar in many, in many, you know, and obviously you have many musicians, say for instance Miles Davis.
You don't think about this because you think that jazz as it's completely different from that they're not linked together, but actually roots can be the same for this completely different genre of music. So
and every artist has gone on their own journey. So Miles Davis, you know, very, you know, pop, and then obviously all the very kind of cool stuff, and then he went to like the freaky stuff like On the Corner, or, you know, rock stuff in the 80s. So it's like every artist is kind of hopping around, because some artists are like,
with a different,
they're like, I'm not jazz, I'm rock, you know, or I'm going to do a hip hop album. You know, and then other people are like very straight down the line, you know, so it's kind of, I don't know, rhythm and sound or something like that. So it's a strange, but I think learning about the generalities of the development of genres through the years. And this is something in Italy, I think people are very aware of the history of house music and disco music, and there's a love and respect for those roots, and a love and respect for the originators, and, you know, and a real need to kind of encounter and be in touch with the people who did it first, like the authenticity, you know what I mean? And obviously there's a lot of people in Italy making disco and house, for instance, but there's a long history of a lot of the American pioneers coming over here, you know, from the 80s onwards. So people were kind of encountering the real deal, you know, and obviously the Americans were appreciating the fact that there was thousands of people over here who were dancing to them, you know, and being into the music on a very deep level, you know what I mean? 'Cause that's amazing when you travel and see these
And you have
communities
the
and
luck
these
to,
connections.
you like to see different realities, and then you get what you want, and you recreate something with this knowledge.
Yeah. So the notion of roots, especially in terms of a musical context, is kind of, I think it's something which can have many meanings, but also I think it's just like every genre has history and depth, and I think if you're going to involve yourself with that, you need to know about it. Not like you need to do an exam, but you just need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the way I look and think about music is, you know, not the same as other people might do that. But that's what gives me my style, you know what I mean? So it kind of, yeah. So it's kind of like, but it's a style that's aware of those roots, but also like you can choose when to follow the rules, and you can choose when actually I'm going to do this because this feels like I should go off over here. You know what I mean? Or you're just, once you know all the history, you can make connections a lot easier. You know, so you can go, you know.
Yeah, I think with the knowledge you always have the chance to enrich like this your how to say, your path, because you know what you want to do. I mean, you have something in your mind and you have the knowledge of the different kind of musics, and then you put together the things you're interested in to create something different. So it's like you building your stuff with your knowledge that you build yourself. So it's always something that comes from the person. I think it's not a gift. I mean, it's something that requires time, requires patience, and but if you have the knowledge, as you said before, it's easier to switch from one genre to another, because you know where and how to play this different tune in that moment, let's say. So it's easier if you have more knowledge.
If you know how the genres are connected, and also that the genres are kind of, they're useful to explain things. Like I'll say disco, everybody knows what disco is.
Yeah.
I say house, but then there are things around the edges of those genres which are like, what is that? You know, is that jazz? Is it rock? Is it Latin? Yeah. So there's, and you know, for me, I like a lot of music which isn't categorizable. You know, certain artists, they'll make an album which is kind of like, this sounds like 4 genres all at once. So it starts off like this and it finishes off like this.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, I don't know what to call it, but when I'm DJing, I know that this is going to get me from funk to
link you. It's like a bridge
to Latin,
go from one side to another one,
and it does it by itself. You know, the record is doing all the work.
To get connected to different.
But it's you know, I was you know, speaking earlier today about like I like a lot of Italian music, but I'm still not knowledgeable enough about the roots and the history and the connections to be able to really get deep with it. You know what I mean? In terms of being comfortable with the history, knowing where the artists are from, knowing their stories, and all that kind of thing. So it's like, oh yeah, I like that particular producer, but I don't know where they're from. I don't know who they work with. You know, like the same way I might know differently about other musicians. So it's like, well, I need to do some homework.
Yeah, some homework. Yeah,
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in here who can help me with that. You know, because it's like, well, okay, I'll give you some UK knowledge, and you give me some Italian knowledge, because like. There's a lot of things I don't understand about, you know, the kind of the music from Italy and the influences and the reasons for things being a certain way they are, and obviously a lot of it has been documented, but a lot of it hasn't.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, why is that like that, or why is that musician, or kind of what's that? You know,
Tell me more about.
Yeah, and a lot of it I don't know about. And I know there's a lot of it, you know, because I know a lot of very heavy Italian record collectors who've got thousands of records I don't know. Yeah, so it's like, well, I need to know about that, you know what I mean? But there's every country in the world will have all its scenes.
Yeah, of course, an Italian person can give you more than you can read on the net or whatever, because we were born here, so we can give you our knowledge.
Yeah.
we exchange knowledge, and it's always it's like a conversation, as you said before. Music is a conversation, but also like these groups it's all part of the same thing. So if you're interested in this topic, that's what it's topic, but music is work. It's nice that you can always exchange thoughts and new ideas with people that feel the same, and that their mental music is the same that you have. So it's nice that you have a conversation with these people, because in a way you feel understood from this, and you don't feel out of the topic I think it's really it's hard to find, but there are people everywhere that can give support on this.
Yeah,
it's really hard to find. Sometimes it's I think it's just it's fake. It's like building the artist and everything, but then when you deep dive in, it's really hard to find people that really have passion for music, and they want to share this knowledge, and they want to spread music and love and all the emotions that music can give to you. So
it's a real balance of nerdiness and hours of digging and finding out and exploring, and then the simple thing of also enjoying it as well. You know, like when you learn the skills, and then you don't forget the skills, but you automatically use those skills, and then you can get creative. And I think that, you know, it's just, you know, and for me, tactically as a DJ, if I learn more about Italian music, next time I come to Italy, you know, I'd be like, how come you know that tune? You know, only Italian DJs know that tune. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of a kind of like almost. I'll always play a few records from that country, because I know there'll be a few people in the crowd who are like, okay, you know,
it's nice to surprise, but also to. This is like a cherry on top.
But then that starts a conversation. You know, so I played an Italian soundtrack tune last night, and I was chatting about it today, but I want to know more about that artist, because I just have one album by that artist. It's a funky tune. I play it, but I don't know anything about it. So it's like if I play that, I start that conversation.
Like the background of
the exactly. And then they're like, oh, if you like that, you'll like this. Oh.
Exactly. It's like giving advices, and it's everything.
So it starts conversations, and I think every tune you play will touch somebody in a different way. And also, you know, when you're playing in a club, the amount of musical experience and knowledge on that dance floor far exceeds the knowledge of any DJ, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to play things here. I might be playing Brazilian music or Punjabi music or, you know, Ethiopian music, and I've got the records, I like them, I know how to play them, but there will be someone in there who knows who knows everything about that artist, and they're like, you played that record? I was like, great, tell me more.
Yes.
Because it's still you're all the time you're trying to use this, almost like the energy that's contained within this music, to create more energy and bring it to life, and bring more awareness about the person who made that music and where they came from and their context, because you're still trying to unravel the mystery of what this crazy song is, you know. And it's just like and being able to play this music and share it with people then starts these conversations, because other people hear you play it, they contact you, and it might be just one or two tunes every night,
but it's still something, no?
Yeah, exactly.
If you keep the mind of somebody in the audience listening to your song that you're playing, and it comes to you and tells you more, it's already something that you created. And if you didn't play that track, maybe this person would never have come to you to say something about this track. So it's always, as we said, it's something that is always evolving, no?
But these are the kind of things from the gigs, because those tunes might not be the ones that make the party go crazy, but there's just a couple of people there like, okay. but then that starts off another little journey, separate, you know. But these are the things that we need to try and do with our events. Is we're trying to, you know, you have your the main focus, which is creating a communal feeling and reaching a kind of peak, you know, and doing that in whatever way. But also these little extra things that happen separately, you know, because you're trying to continue the life of these pieces of music, you know, and this piece of music might have been on somebody's shelf for 30 years, and you find it in a second-hand shop. You buy it, then you.
It becomes the most famous.
Then you take it to Combo Social Club and play it, and then that takes it on another journey, and then someone else finds a copy, and then, you know, plays that to someone else. Yeah. You're continuing this because all the music that I've heard generally, you know, most of it's been from hearing other people play it or reading about it. So somebody's bothered to read about it. You know what I mean? So it's this whole thing about sharing, and you know, other people sharing music that they're excited about. I hear it, I can hear they're excited. That gets me excited. Yeah. I take it, I get excited. Yeah. You know, so it's constantly.
Spreading,
it's like a chemical reaction, you know.
It's true. It's like a chemical reaction. Nice. So the next question is, our dream is to build and create our own sound system. We are studying its evolution through years to deeply understand which is the right move to do based on our sound and our way to meet the party. What would you recommend to us, and what precautions do we need to take, and why?
Ooh, that's. There's a sound engineer in the room. Perhaps you should ask him. It's. I don't know. The thing is, it's very time-consuming and expensive. So I think what you need is somebody who is obsessed by the process of building. I think it's combining your ambitions with the expertise of someone who's done it before. I think for me, because you've been doing these parties for 10 years, you kind of need to, you know, and you look at the way that you're doing printing, or you know, the equipment you might use for DJing or whatever. It's almost like you're already at a level so far that, I don't know, maybe speak to some of the reggae sound system operators. You know, it's like, do you have to build your own system? What's the reason for that? Because it's a lot of work, you know what I mean? Or do you go, actually, we're going to buy a really good little sound system like the one you hired in last night and put it in a club? It's like, what is the
reason why we're asking you this thing? I guess it's because we would like to know if there's a specific sound system that it's more suitable for our situations. Let's say we play this kind of music, so if there's a specific sound system that can help us to enrich the level of the enjoyment of these parties and what we do in our project. So it was more like, if you have any advice for us to take care of this project and to bring it to the next level.
Yeah, there's so many different levels to it. I mean, I think you don't really, apart from maybe reggae sound systems, I wouldn't particularly say that there was a kind of a style of sound system that fits certain kinds of music. And then also you could be in a position where you make a really good disco sound system, but jazz doesn't sound very good, you know. So it's sort of like, I think it's good to create like a system. It's like, where are you going to put the system? Because the sound of the room is really important. Every aspect of it, you know, and also if you have a space, then you can deal with the acoustics in the space, and then you can look at the sound system requirements based on the size of the room and the number of people you expect in the room.
Many different aspects before something specifically.
Yeah, because it's you know, unless you're like, well, we want to make a sound system that we can put in different venues, then I suppose one of the requirements would be it needs to be portable. You know, you don't want to, you know, unless so it's, you know, you need somewhere to store it. So these are all requirements as well, you know. So it's I just think like having a sound system can be a very, very rewarding, but it also leads to a whole load of other challenges which require learning, and
Yeah,
it's like
it can be suitable for a specific part, let's say, but for the next one, maybe if the venue is going to be different, if it's a different completely situation, then you should make some changes or some adjustments for that specific situation, no?
Yeah.
So it's just.
I think what's really important is that every time that you are in a situation where you are in a venue and you're working with a sound system or an engineer, you make sure you spend a lot of time with them so that they can explain how their system works. You explain what you want, and then they learn a bit about your approach.
Yeah.
And you're like, perhaps we could change this. And they're like, okay, we can't change this because of this, or
That could be an idea, yeah.
I'd like to try and change that because it's coming there. You're going into their environment and asking them a specific question that has
can be suitable for us.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're giving us some advices and.
Yeah, I mean the other way is to work with local PA companies, hire companies, sound engineers. Find someone you really enjoy the company of, and see if they want to work with you on all your events. You know, so for me, I always travel with a sound engineer. I would never have my own sound system because I know people who've built sound systems, and it takes 10, 15 years to kind of build it up to a level where you're like, yeah, this is okay now.
This is great, yeah.
And it's never perfect, so you're always trying to develop.
Of course, you always need to make something.
So if you're like, yeah, we definitely want to do this, we have the space, we have the expertise, we've got the finance, we have the time to commit to this, you know, this big thing, or you work with other people who are like, yeah, I've been doing this all my life, I love it.
In a way, customize the specific sound system of that place for your requirements.
Yeah, but the reason I bring an engineer is to make me comfortable. And also to have a bridge between me and the venue because I'm DJing all night. Although
and he knows what you're playing, so in a way it helps you to find the best sound system that it can express your set in the best way.
Well, it's just a position. You know, sometimes it's the position of the speakers, or you know, some of the equalization or the levels of the amplifier. So there are, at every point in the sound system, there are things that.
There are many things to consider.
Yeah, there are many things to consider, including what DJ mixer you use, what quality of your DJ table.
Yeah.
There are, but I see it from the perspective of I played in hundreds of different venues, and I see what they can provide. I ask for any extra if I need it, or like with this one. They know the sound system in combo isn't great. Hiring another one, we're hiring in this. Great, that's fine. Have you got this? Have you got that? Cool, we can deal with it on the day. Because then, but I know that when I'm DJing, that Lorraine is walking around making adjustments. The sound changes as the room fills up. So yeah, the question about the sound systems, I think, you know, obviously from this collector's perspective, like maybe having a venue or a space or a sound system, seems like maybe that's the next step to take. But it's finding somebody who is already part of that world, who's attracted by what you have happening in your collective and going, yeah, I can bring this to the collective.
Yeah.
I've got speakers, or I'm a reggae sound system operator who likes disco. I can't play disco in my sound clashes, but I'll help you guys out because I really like what you're doing, you know. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'd tap into that local reggae sound system expertise. You know, go to some of the, you know, the sound system dances, see how that feels, and how is this different from a normal club?
Okay, so just trying to speak and to have different opinions from these people that have already their own sound system, and they can help us to create our own situation, even though we won't build our own sound system, but maybe they can give us good advices to have the best sound system for different venues.
I think it's just learning about it. Yeah. You know, learning more in depth, and you know, then it might be that members of your collective do some sound engineering training. You know what I mean? Or maybe, you know, a lot of you work in studios, so you probably have a lot of this knowledge anyway. But I would say a lot of, you know, because I think knowing a lot of the music that influences some of the people in this room, there's also a lot of respect for the culture of sound systems, both from a reggae perspective and from a kind of American-centric disco, Paradise Garage, or the Loft perspective, in terms of these places were legendary for their sound systems, but also for their spirit. So it almost seemed part of the package. It's like if we want to do this properly, we need our own sound system. But I don't think that's.
It's kind of not. It's not the only thing that can help.
But also in those days, the general quality of sound in venues wasn't as good. So to have a big hi-fi system, or to have, you know, something that was so clear and loud and physically imposing, there weren't really loud club sound systems, so that had to be built specifically. You know, and obviously the Paradise Garage was influenced by the Loft and the use of those components, but was taken on a much bigger scale that was kind of quite different from the approach of David Mancuso. You know what I mean? So, these sound systems were put in for a specific reason. So I think you have to know what your reason is, because it's a lot of work and a lot of money, and you might be like, actually, the people we hired for the sound system last night were cool. Let's work with them for a bit. And for every gig, we'll hire in our own sound system. And then we work out, because when you're hiring, it's like, oh yeah, we can have a bit more bass next time. Well, let's try some speakers at the back. You know.
So it's building like time after time.
It's that process of planning. Like with any event, it's the planning, it's the technical things. Right, we're going to get this in and this in to improve it. Then you have the experience
like
of
getting feedbacks from the event, and then for the next one, like trying to change some little things to see if it's better or it's worse.
But also, if you're paying for a sound system, make sure one of your crew is kind of working on it all night with whoever is in control of it, so they're learning. And we do this. Oh, okay.
Also, because maybe they can tell you the advantages of this sound system specifically, and if they don't speak about this to you, you might not even know about all these features that this specific sound system can have, no?
Yeah, you might be like, this doesn't feel right here, or it's a bit quiet.
You don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
So if it's somebody with you that can help you out to solve the problem, the issue, it's better.
Yeah, and it's knowing what's possible in certain spaces. You know what I mean? But all this is. It's just doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again. But I think the advantage of having people who are obsessed about sound systems, as you might be about artwork or vinyl, is they're always a long way along that path. But they're like, okay, well, I've got my knowledge and I can.
Yeah, but they need some different knowledge.
And I can see what you want. So here's where we meet in the middle, because they'll be learning because you have a very definite idea about what you want to do. And for me, sometimes a sound system's about how can you make it feel a certain way in the venue. So it's not necessarily about technical reproduction or clarity. Sometimes it's about that just feels right. You know, you're matching a sound system to a room. You know, like last night, for instance. The sound system was good, the venue acoustics aren't great, so it's like actually how you treat the room, maybe with some drapes and that kind of thing, is also just as important as what speakers you put in.
It's true.
Because
you have to consider many different things.
You're hearing the room as much as the speakers, you know. So it's kind of like that's one aspect. You know, you might be like, okay, this DJ mixer is cool, but it could sound better. So there's a slight compromise of the sound there. So it's like, okay, we'll improve the DJ mixer. Wow, this has now come to life, but it's trying that, you know. So
different tries.
So next time you hire a sound system in the venue, bring 3 DJ mixers along and test them. You know, say, oh, can we come in 2 hours earlier? We just want to test this condenser with this Pioneer, with this E&S mixer. Oh wow, that sounds great in here, because sometimes you're matching the sound of a mixer to the sound of a PA. The same way, if you are recording a musical instrument, you will match the character of the microphone to the character of that instrument. So if you have something that's very sharp, like brass, you might have a microphone that sounds quite warm. If you're recording something much warmer, like double bass, you might have quite a sharp sounding microphone. because every piece of equipment has a kind of a tone, character.
Sure.
So it's like, but it's putting all these things together and having the instinct. So when you've done it time and time again, you are walking into a room and going, right, I know exactly what needs to be done in here.
Yeah.
Or we're okay with what we have already, or no, we need to bring in another system.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I think there needs to be a very strong reason to do it, just because of how much work it is. But I think initially it's just like work with people, hire the systems, make sure your crew, especially the music and musically technical people, producers, DJs, are learning with the sound engineers. We're putting this here because of this. And then, the engineer might say one or two things, and then, your crew might be like, oh, could we try a bit of EQ or not, or could we move that, because where you put the speakers in a room is very important as well. Even very slight adjustments, the height of the speakers, where you put them, where you place the subs, how wide you have your stereo image. It depends what music you want to play as well. Sometimes the sound system and the acoustics of the room will dictate what you play as a DJ, simply because some things might not sound as good as you'd hope. So it's like, well, I'm just not going to play that music this evening, or we need to find a solution so I can play that kind of music. But this is kind of years.
Already the next step.
Yeah, that's kind of years down the line. But I think it's really, there are a lot of young sound systems and people who are coming from the reggae route or like the more disco route, and there's a lot of enthusiasm there. But speak to them. It's like, is it worth the effort?
Okay.
As well, or kind of come and, hey, sound system, come and work with us for one night. We'll do a collaboration. So I think it's like it's bringing people together. It's learning, and it's going, actually, it's better if we use their system. Or no, we need a venue, and now we're going to research and try out different sound systems in this space. You know what I mean? So it's trying it, it's learning, it's talking, it's exploring. But it's exciting, but it's also
it's an effort, but at least we wanted to ask you some advices, and then we will follow your advice.
No, it's a long journey, but also while Lorian's here, speak to him, because he's a sound engineer, so he might have some different ideas to me as well. He might be like, last night I would have done that differently, or that kind of thing. So it's like, have more nerds who live and breathe speakers.
Different people, maybe that gives you new ideas.
Yeah, definitely. But I think what you have to your advantage is you have a great community who are really good fun and enjoyable to work with, and have a great deal of respect from each other and for other people who bring in expertise and interface with them. Whether it's printing or a club night or a record label or whatever. So it's like, this group of people is already quite an exciting thing for a sound engineer or a sound system operator to work with. So try and say to a reggae sound system, bring your reggae system and let's see if we can make a party, or we'll pay you just to come to this. Come a day early and we can set up in this venue and try a few different things and arrange these things differently and test things, because this is all experience which will help inform your next decision.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, listening to music is very important for children's education. How much music influences the relationship with your child and the musical education with your child?
My daughter's 11 now, so her musical education is from TikTok.
Okay. Hard to accept.
No, but that's how, when I was 11, I wasn't listening to music with my parents, but she loves Samande and Children's Use and stuff like that. So it's like, some music from when she was younger that she still likes, but you have to be very careful as a parent, because if you start saying, you must listen to this, the kid's like, I want to listen to Sped Up.
That's the starting point. Just because you told me to listen to this, I won't.
So it's just kind of, I think it's just around, and if they like it, they'll ask about it. And often a lot of the music is on TikTok or in a film is quite old, And they're like, how do you know that? You know, like, Dad, how do you know that tune? Because they see it as their music.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's Tribe Called Quest, or that's, you know, whatever, you know, because it might be something that's used in a film, or Earth, Wind and Fire, or something like that. And they're like
the most commercial stuff, it's in the movies and everything. It's really easy to get to listen to those.
But to them, it's like that song from that film.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, no, it's like that song from that album. From 40 years ago.
It's completely different,
So mostly it's kind of, you know, I hear a lot of the music she listens to. Some of it's cool. It's interesting hearing what kids listen to because a lot of them listen to the same thing because of the, you know, the apps and the social media and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we don't really. You know, sometimes she'll come in the studio and we'll record something and stuff. But generally, it's like she has her music, and you know. I'm not quite cool enough for her to be asking me about it. You know, because she's around records all the time. She's a bit like, oh.
So she could have the chance to get interested by herself and not like. Maybe it has to be naturally, no?
But sometimes she'll pull a record off the shelf, random, and put it on the turntable. But she kind of instigates that herself, you know what I mean? So it's around, you know, it's around her, but not like, it's not like, right now, you know, we're going to sit down and I'm going to play you music for an hour, because kids think they know everything, you know what I mean? But as an adult, you can't really say you don't know everything, because it kind of spoils their magic, you know what I mean? It's like, you enjoy your TikTok music, it's cool. You know, I'll go and listen to something else.
Maybe 11 years old is this young, maybe to get this huge knowledge of music, maybe she will get there step by step with some advices.
It's there if she needs it, you know what I mean? And if not...
No, as everyone did, I mean, it's, if you like music and then you just create your own knowledge and you enrich with the listening of music of the things you like, but it's natural and it's from the inside, so I cannot tell you, listen to this because it's great, because you cannot be great. And it's just a personal opinion. It's always in between, no?
I think one thing that really helps is if you're at a music festival, because there's so much choice on offer, she's really drawn to live music. So we went, you know, we'll if we go to a festival, there'll be 2 or 3 acts that she'll see that neither of us know, and she'll be like, oh, I really like that artist, and then she'll listen to them on Spotify, and then she'll, you know, and then that'll be her music. So we put her in a position where she can discover her own, and it might be a nice festival like.
So she's digging a bit herself.
Across the tracks all the way out here, but it's from, I saw that artist, they connected with me, and now I'm going to listen to their music.
Nice.
You know, so I think that's the main way, rather than in the home of like, listen to this album. It's more like, oh wow, can we go and see that band? You know, and then she's seen. And then she's like, I want to relive that experience because it's a bit more exciting for a kid, you know, seeing the musicians on stage and all that kind of thing. So
rather than listening to a violin and staying in the room, it's nicer to have live music. No, it's much more entertainment.
And it's hers.
It's a different experience.
She's like, I like that artist, and I want to listen to them, rather than me going, you need to see this artist and you need to listen to them. You know, they don't like kids don't like being told what to do.
No, that's true. That's true. I would go with the 2 last questions, which are really funny. So the first one is, which is your, as we know, everyone knows that you have like the potato as your mascot, and you're always throwing potatoes. Which is your favorite way to eat potatoes?
Ooh. There's. I would say like. Maybe steamed with butter. Like in the style. I've had that sometimes in Italy, although the potatoes are like smaller and chopped up, or like a French style. Steamed with butter.
With butter. Okay.
But when it's perfectly cooked through, the same all the way through, which is really difficult to do.
That one is really hard to get. It's the specific skills behind.
So even though you know, in certain cultures, like, you know, I cook a lot of pasta, but I'm not very good at it, and then I come here. And then we eat pasta here, and it's just like, wow. You know,
I never ate pasta before.
Rather than like, oh, I'm not going to cook this, I'm not going to pay for this because I can make this at home. It's like, no, I can make this at home, but it's
not,
this
it's not
is
gonna be the same.
a completely different level.
Yeah.
So I think, I think the steamed potatoes with butter. In fact, the potatoes I had today, I think they were really good with the pasta. But that was but you know, because in Italy you have potatoes with pasta a lot, you know, with the sauce or kind of mixed vegetables. But potato is seen as more of a side thing in the UK. So it's not, you know, you wouldn't really mix. That would be like mixing rice and pasta, you know what I mean? It's like, this is the carbohydrate.
Yeah,
you're having carbohydrate with carbohydrate, you know. So I like, I think, potatoes and pasta.
Potatoes and pasta.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, it's not a question,
Okay.
it's say something random.
Sausage.
That's it.
All right.
So, we are done with our interview to Mr. Scruff.
I'd like to wish Autentica a very happy 10th birthday. I think what you have going on here is amazing. Just seeing the mix of people and the feeling between you and the way you interact to make people feel welcome, and the level at which you're operating in terms of the quality of what you're making, whether it's visual or musical or putting on an event. I think it's amazing, and it's one of my favourite crews to work with in the whole world. So I think it's just
Wow.
about the world.